Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking an absolutely massive strategic proposal regarding the future of the American military. The information we're diving into comes straight from a fascinating report by the Center for Cyber Diplomacy and International Security. We're looking at a concept that could, literally, fundamentally change how national security operates in the digital age.
Okay, so let's jump right into this multi-billion-dollar question. Does cyberspace actually require its own military branch? Right now, this is shifting from, just a casual think tank debate into a really fierce legislative priority. Congress actually mandated a formal assessment on this very topic. So we're not just talking hypotheticals anymore, this is a pressing structural challenge.
To answer that question, the Commission on U.S. Cyber Force Generation, which is a joint effort from the Center for Strategic and International Studies and the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, recently published its findings. Now, what's vital to understand here is that their report isn't just complaining about the current setup. Instead, it deliberately lays out the architectural groundwork, the actual implementation framework for what a dedicated cyber service could achieve and exactly how it could be built.
To truly grasp the scale of this proposal, we'll break this explainer into 5 distinct parts. First, the Air Force analogy. Second, the strategic cyber gap. Third, rethinking the talent pipeline. Fourth, allies and global deterrence. And finally, we'll look at the 2040 strategic horizon.
Let's move straight into our first section, the Air Force analogy and why institutional primacy matters. Now, what's really interesting here is how looking backward helps us understand the future. Think back to the early 1940s. Military aviation was just kind of a secondary task tucked inside the Army. But strategists realized a hard truth. To truly dominate the skies, aviation couldn't just be a side project. So in 1947, the Air Force was born. They built an institution with its own unique culture, doctrine, and career paths that were entirely dedicated to the air domain. And that concept is captured perfectly by military strategist Dr. Vladimir Tsakanyan. He says, domain mastery, historically, has followed institutional primacy. Just like the Marine Corps was built to master amphibious warfare, true mastery of cyberspace requires an institution where cyber is the entire reason for existence, complete with its own tailored budgets and promotion systems.
Which brings us to Section 2, the strategic cyber gap and the absolute need for doctrine.
Look at our current setup. We've kind of hit a structural ceiling. The military has these incredibly mature, deeply studied doctrines for land, sea, air, and space. But because cyber responsibilities are fragmented across different branches right now, cyber doctrine is still relatively young. It's missing that career-long, unified institutional investment.
So how do you fix it? Well, if a dedicated cyber force were created, it would immediately start closing this gap by establishing its own professional military education system, like dedicated war colleges, and by building targeted operational analysis functions. A cyber force would systematically advance operational principles. It would basically allow professionals to spend their entire careers doing one crucial thing: testing cyber concepts against real-world experience at scale.
Moving right along to Section 3, rethinking the talent pipeline and how to bridge the civilian gap.
Because here's the great paradox, right? The U.S. possesses literally the world's deepest, most capable pool of technical talent. We're talking software engineers, AI developers, network security experts. But that talent is overwhelmingly locked up in the civilian commercial sector. Why? Simply put, the military's current incentive architecture just wasn't built to catch them. Now, the solution isn't to try and outspend Silicon Valley on salary. That's a losing battle for sure. Instead, a cyber force would compete on things tech giants simply can't offer: unparalleled mission significance, a dedicated peer community, and high-stakes professional development. It's about building a unique culture, very much like how early aviation attracted a specific breed of risk-accepting pioneers.
Plus, a dedicated force wouldn't be stuck relying only on full-time active duty members. They could design highly flexible reserve pathways. Think about it. Brilliant tech professionals could directly contribute to national security without having to completely walk away from their lucrative civilian careers. It creates this institutional bridge between the tech sector and the military that is, frankly, very difficult to maintain at scale right now.
All right, Section 4, Allies and Global Deterrence, focusing on the international dimension.
Because cyber warfare absolutely does not happen in a vacuum. It is a highly cooperative global effort. Allies like the UK, Australia, and Canada, they're navigating these exact same questions right now.
A U.S. cyber force would provide a much-needed authoritative counterpart for these nations. It acts as a dedicated anchor for international architectures, like NATO's evolving space and cyber frameworks, making joint operations significantly smoother.
When we zoom out globally, we're seeing some major structural shifts abroad. China, for instance, has spent the last decade building an integrated cyber and information force structure, which is now known as the Information Support Force. And strategists are analyzing this impartially, not out of panic, but as a clear, objective demonstration of what sustained, dedicated institutional investment in cyber can achieve over time.
And this brings us straight to the concept of cyber deterrence. By establishing a dedicated, standalone branch, the United States sends a massive strategic signal. It clearly communicates a serious, unwavering institutional commitment to the cyber domain. Adversaries look at structural investments to gauge exactly how seriously a nation takes a threat. A dedicated force fundamentally shifts that calculus.
Finally, Section 5, the 2040 Strategic Horizon. Let's look at how we are building for tomorrow.
Look, the 2026 landscape is already incredibly intense. We're dealing with highly sophisticated state-sponsored operations, the integration of AI into offensive capabilities, and adversaries pre-positioning themselves in critical infrastructure. And the reality is, even if an institution is founded right this second, it will still take years to fully mature its talent pipelines and its operational architecture.
Because the real stakes, they go way beyond today. A cyber force is actively being designed for the 2030s and 2040s. We're looking at a strategic horizon where AI agents transform the speed of operations and where quantum computing completely rewrites the fundamental rules of cryptography. You simply cannot wait until those threats are fully mature to start building the institution meant to fight them. So, knowing that the Air Force was built way back in 1947 to handle a 50-year strategic competition, we have to ask ourselves, will this proposed framework lead to the institutional investment necessary to secure the next half-century of cyberspace? Will we build the institution that tomorrow's security environment absolutely demands? It's a profound question to leave you with, and understanding the strategic logic behind it is essential for anyone following the future of global security. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I highly encourage you to keep exploring how these domains are evolving.